Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spawn Room's competitive snapshot series. I am Perlox, and today we're going to be looking at a match that I casted last week between Ronin 5 and Mediocre Gamers. And it had been a match that was a little bit interesting. There was a number of things that, like as a new caster who's like learning analytic casting and stuff like that is, there's a lot of things that you can miss when you're trying to keep up with everything going on and trying to also be a little bit entertaining and stuff like that. So I wanted to go back and just look at this match because it was kind of interesting, and there were some things that became more apparent when I slowed it down and actually looked at the decision-making process behind the players. So this is the first round, 0-0, and it is an unsuccessful round win by the T side, but it is a successful plant at Bombsite A, and we'll take a look at how they got to that position. Okay, so as you can see, it is 0-0, Ronin 5 versus Mediocre Gamers. And the first thing we're going to point out is the positioning here at the first round. So I'm going to pause it. This looks pretty good. So from an amateur perspective, a lot of times when you're doing, the first 0-0 round, you might just do a rush, right? You'll just, bomb was B side, so you'll just rush into B and try your luck, or you'll go long A and hopefully you'll get this guy and you'll get on the bomb site, at least get the bomb plant before the other team shuts you down, or, whatever happens, whatever you're trying to do. So this one is a little different. They send one T icy over here that's just going to kind of sit back and watch this door, and the other T's sitting around double doors at long A, and Miniker watching mid. CT side, they have a single guy watching long A, double doors, and they have 4 of them at bomb site B. And I think there's 2 different assumptions you can make here. The first is that Ronin 5 might just think that this team, based on maybe matches they've watched in the past, just happens to like B rushes or something, or maybe they play a lot, B tunnels a lot or something like that. So they're just going to stack this side because maybe they're just hoping that that's what it is, right? But I think the more likely scenario is simply that B is harder to retake, and so they don't want to sacrifice this first critical round trying to retake bomb site B. And I think that makes sense because, tunnels is really narrow. So it's hard, once the T's are set up, if they do take the bomb site, it's really hard for more than 1, maybe 2 guys to come through tunnels without taking a lot of fire at the same time. You also have to come through that tiny little window, which always has a guy watching it. You have to come through the crack in the door, which always has guys ready to go. So bomb site B is just harder, I think, to take. And so it makes sense that they want to stack it. And just, if the bomb is planted A, they have more wider angles to work with, right? 3 different wide attack vectors to come in at. If you have multiple guys at catwalk and multiple guys at long, or even just a single guy, it shuts down like so many angles for cover. So I think it's just easier, right? They just want to be ready for bomb site B on the off chance that that's what it is. They also have 2 guys watching mid. One will be able to see cat. This guy's got long, so they'll know if it's going to be an A push anyway. And yeah, I think that's all to mention right there at the beginning. So as you can see, the T's have, from the previous position, they ended up moving up mid here, and they did exchange 1-for-1 kill at a fairly long range. Sort of negating the CT advantage in that position. They could have taken the kill and backed off and made it just a nice 4v5 to work with, but they did trade one. Icy also came through lower tunnels to connect with his teammate, and these 2 decoys are from the terrorist team, and they're essentially creating kind of like the effectiveness of a smoke in a way. By placing them here, it kind of reduces the confidence in the CTs from just crossing in here and maybe getting picks as the T's jump up onto catwalk. It also kind of creates a barrier here, an invisible barrier that makes DAPs not want to necessarily come in and reinforce. Once these T's are up into the bomb site, and these decoys are still running, he doesn't know for certain that when he comes around this corner, he could just get shot and killed. So he has to, it does create a sort of invisible barrier that delays him and Wabbit from convening on the CTs. So that you can see the T's have decided to move all the way up cat. Now, a couple things I wanted to point out here is, first of all, a lot of times when myself at amateur level, we come and do cat, we kind of hug this back wall and come in because you can avoid being seen from guys down here, and even from over here you can kind of creep in. And the T's actually kind of move right along the edge here and in. And you'll see in a second here, Becklemore managed to get one pick at long, which means he has a respite from watching these doors for a bit. And he's actually going to get a pick here too. And I think Hades gets a fair amount of damage on these guys. And you might be thinking, well, why didn't they just go around like this and protect themselves a little bit more? But the problem is, you might want to consider that they are running with Glocks up against 3 USPs, which are really effective at range. So once they're in the bomb site and you start having CTs coming from cat and from long, and even CT spawn, these USPs could play a fairly vital role at range. And if they can pick Hades by playing up close, it's one less guy they have to worry about, and it kind of maximizes the efficiency or the effectiveness of these Glocks. Unfortunately, it's not going to work out too well. I mean, Becklemore is still at a fairly good range, and I think his USP is probably a lot more powerful in that situation there. So they're not going to be able to control him as well. And he's placed himself very nicely. You'll see in a second that he knows right when to go back and take cover and just utilize his weapon when it's most effective. So you can see that the T's have made it to the bomb site now, and all the CTs have kind of taken this further back range as they wait for Wabbit to get closer up and Daps to get closer up. Becklemore very cautiously is going to take a position way back here, whereas USP might actually be pretty useful. It should also be noted that the decoy was still running until just a few seconds ago, which actually did still create that barrier for Daps not quite wanting to get in and reinforce his team faster, which pretty much is exactly what you want that decoy to do. He even wasted a flash in here. In fact, I think he must have wasted both of them, because I think there was 2, unless one of them had been used by Juvenile before. But he did actually waste a flash, thinking that there might be a T here. So it did a fair amount of work for the T team, placing those 2 decoys there. And now we can watch the rest of the round pretty much play out. The T's are in a lot of trouble here because they have to both watch cat and long, and a lot of the angles where they could be covered normally are not very effective. Shroud right now is completely visible by Becklemore, or he will be. Yeah, you can see him right there. So this is a pretty tough position for the T's to be in now. And you can see that they carefully waited. They're actually exchanging fire back and forth. Like, he shot first, they looked that way, then Becklemore started shooting, they looked back, and they have to keep switching back and forth and back and forth. And the CTs are doing a good job of staying in cover and not really getting dinked up that much compared to the T's. And we can just kind of watch it play out now. They do manage one pick behind the crates there. There's the long-range pick from Mozbek onto Shroud into that position. So they'll get the defuse and take the first round.